Welcome back to the Virtue Bowling Supply YouTube channel. My name is Chris and I'm here to bring you guys the high-rev perspective.
And my name is Josh and I'll be bringing the low-rev perspective.
Today we're going to be taking a look at the brand new Storm Bionic, and I'm going to be comparing that to the 900 Global Vengeance and the DV8 Heckler Hybrid.
And I'll be comparing it to the 900 Global Vengeance and the Ion Pro. These comparisons will give us and you an idea of what these pieces look like going down the lane. At the end, we will give our honest, unbiased review anywhere from nuts to trash. Today we are here out at Violenda on a fresh house shot. With that being said, make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you out on the lanes.
All right, after seeing the Bionic go down the lane, this one seemed pretty strong to me out of box. To me, out of box, this one feels really strong. Like, I feel like it's even stronger than the Ion Pro Solid. This, I still feel like fits in kind of the medium smooth category, but out of box, with this one coming pretty dull, this one forced me a little bit further left to find more oil in the front part of the lane. First couple of them that I threw kind of saw it before the arrows, so I had to be a little bit further left, and I was kind of curious to see if it was going to come off the end of the pattern the right way, just because it felt so early and strong. But I was pretty surprised because it still retained enough energy to kind of go through the pins. The further left I got, the more forward the shape got, which is to be anticipated with something that's pretty strong, but it was pretty dynamic off the end of the pattern, so which was pretty impressive. So now I'm going to go ahead and throw the Vengeance and see how that compares. All right, after seeing the Vengeance go down the lane, to me, I feel like these would fit a somewhat similar spot in the bag, just because the Bionic's not like the strongest kind of shape, and the Vengeance kind of fits that same kind of spot. Benchmarky, but still pretty early. Do you think you can kind of shape the ball a little bit more with the Vengeance? To me, it felt like it floated a little bit more. Ball motion off the end of the pattern was still pretty rounded, but I thought it was pretty quick to friction compared to the Bionic. The Bionic seemed really kind of slow off of it, and the Vengeance, when it got there, it wanted to be rounded but was still quick. So to me, I think the Vengeance might even be just a slight step down from the Bionic. So now I'm gonna go and throw the Heckler Hybrid and see how that compares. All right, after seeing the Heckler Hybrid go down the lane, to me, it felt like the cover on this one was quite a bit weaker and cleaner. The Bionic was pretty strong and early. The core in the Heckler Hybrid is quite a bit stronger and a little bit bigger, so the down lane shape felt more chuggy and kind of hook stoppy. I kind of had to be a little bit closer to the friction because I didn't want to see it quite as early, but the slower kind of asymmetric shape that the Heckler Hybrid has, well, I wanted to be a little more archy than the Bionic wanted to be. So, all right, final thoughts on the Bionic. To me, with this one being pretty strong out of box, I think if you take the surface up on this one a little bit more, I feel like it would kind of fit closer to where the Ion Pro Solid kind of fits. Personally, with this out of box being pretty dull, I think patterns with a little bit more volume, I feel like it's going to be a little bit better for this one. I think if there's a little too much friction, it might just be a little too early. The cover is pretty strong, so I think something with a little bit more volume would look pretty good. The house shot here has a decent amount of volume in the middle part of the lane, so when I got a little bit further left, it looked pretty good. It wasn't allergic to the oil at all, and still felt like it was retained enough energy to kind of go through the pins and kind of throw the pins around, even if it didn't go through the pins directly. So I think this one's gonna be pretty versatile. I'm curious to see kind of what surface adjustments looks on this one. So I think I'm gonna put this one in the fire category, but I'm really curious to see what this looks like on other things.
Just threw 10 shots with the new Storm Bionic ball. For me, visually, love the way it looks. It kind of reminds me like an old Halo kind of vibe, but on the lane it was definitely a different shape than I've seen in the last couple months. It's stronger, you know, a little bit stronger than I was anticipating, and I kind of felt like it was almost like an IQ Nano type shape, which haven't really quite seen something that nice in my eye in a really long time. I felt like it was just a little bit earlier. It blended the lane out beautifully. It was really strong when I got it in oil, and when I got it to friction, it almost labored in a second where it just like got through it for me, where I felt like any other ball I threw there today just kind of insta sparked, and that one was like the first one where I was kind of able to get some relief in both directions. So again, as I moved a little bit further left, I did still feel like I was able to shape the ball down lane enough to where I didn't have to worry about carries. So for me, this is definitely one of more of the versatile balls where you can kind of play a little straighter but also loop it if you choose to. So now we're going to go ahead and throw the Storm Ion Pro and see how it compares. Just through the Ion Pro. Ball for me kind of gave me a similar shape, but you could definitely see that it was asymmetric. For me, I felt like the Bionic was a little bit more tumbly and the Ion was a little bit more rounded. I did feel like the Ion gave me, it's definitely a classic benchmark shape. I feel like you could call it a sim solid and still get away with it and people would kind of believe you, but I felt like the Bionic wanted to shape quicker to friction just slightly than the Ion. I felt like the Ion was a little bit more smoother and more rounded off of it. So now we're gonna go ahead and throw 5 shots with the Vengeance and see how it compares. Just threw shots with the Vengeance. This ball for me was a little bit earlier in my opinion. I felt like it was started up a little bit sooner, but still had a very similar reaction down lane. I felt like these two were close in how they saw friction and how they kind of were somewhat forward in a sense. But overall, I do think that this is just, kind of a half a ball to a full ball up from the Bionic. Just a little bit more overall, just starts up a little bit earlier. But overall, they gave a very similar shape. Definitely, if you're looking for this type of shape, like both of these would be a nice kind of 1-2 punch in the bag. Final thoughts on the Storm Bionic. For me, I've always been a kind of a fan of the stronger stuff, especially if it still shapes down lane. And for me, this ball checked all of those boxes. There was a couple shot making errors in there, so kind of don't mind those, but the ones that were at least above an 8 out of 10, call it par, at least above par, were really just the ball motion, just really seeing the lane the right way. There's a couple shots that I aced in there, but there was a couple that were a little off and the ball still read the lane the right way. For that reason, I am gonna push this ball to a fire. I do think that this is gonna be one of the more versatile bowling balls for really any rev rate. I do think that, again, it just shapes in the mid lane very well, and I feel like that's gonna please a lot of bowlers' eyes. So fire for today.
Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video useful, make sure to like it, subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next one.